What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another stream. FPL Penguin here, back again with another guest stream for you all, talking all things FPL while we're in this dreaded international break. And I hope you're all doing good. In today's stream, we have got all the way from the planet that is called Planet FPL. We have got James, and we've got from on his boat netting that hole. It is Chris. How are we doing, chaps? Welcome.
Very well, thank you, mate. Yourself?
I'm good, mate. Good, mate. So in today's in today's stream, we will be talking about, like I said, all things FPL, how we got on Gameweek 11, our season so far, early plans going into Gameweek 12, and some questions and some topics to talk about from you guys as well. So we'll get straight into this. I've talked about our last two streams, but the new people tuning in also with Chris and James here. This is how I got on in game week. What I've called myself, what a cruel game week. So I've gone down to 169k. Let's go talk about this briefly. 169k. First time this season going to the round about the 100k mark. So I've still got all my chips. I've used a wild card, which was like in game week 4. So just need a bit of a battle plan. I have done some transfers. I've done some transfers. We will talk about that in a minute. This is how I got on. Got Sanchez with -1. And yes, I was one of them that had Foster with 11 points on his bench. I didn't expect that. I don't think anybody expected that. I mean, I felt more safe with Sanchez, but a lot of people probably in the same boat, getting Sanchez red card, starting him. Nothing to rave about, really. Livramento once again getting the clean sheet. Captain Salah, obviously the best one to go for, because if you look at the rest of the team, everyone's bloody blanking. Unless you wanted to take a cheeky punt and Livramento gets you 12 points, then well, hey. Or if you had Foster in your team, starting, then maybe gone for him. But there's nothing. Nobody else really did well like Salah. Tony disappointed against Norwich, Brentford. The no Raya effect. Sounds stupid, doesn't it? Having no Raya and stopped Tony and then Buemo scoring goals. Vardy blanking, Antonio once again blanking against Liverpool in that win against us. And it was all about finals. Was it like Benrahma, Bowen, or something like that? Getting the midfielders getting the points. Son. We will be talking about Spurs as well, because we've got James here as well, who's a big Spurs fan. And what he thinks about Conte and Spurs. But yeah, Spurs, once again, the Son not doing anything in that 0-0 against Everton. But yeah, I don't want to drag on too much with it. So it was a pretty dismal, crap game, we should say, hence the what a cruel game week for the Penguin. So I will tell my guests what I've done transfer-wise. I need new people tuning in as well. This is the team how I'm setting out for the next game week. I'm not doing the whole goalkeeper thing. I've done a -4. I've taken a second hit of the season, and I brought in Cancelo and Wilson. I know is it a bit knee-jerky, but we will talk about that. We're bringing Wilson in, new manager. Is it a bit of a knee-jerky move? But the fixtures are nice. So that's why I brought Callum Wilson, and we will be talking about Eddie Howe at Newcastle. But I do like the fixtures. Brentford last 2 games, still no Raya. Raya's out for quite a bit, for the next 4 or 5 months. So will Newcastle be pumped for this? New owners, new manager. I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out. I've been told, in contact, should we say, with one of my Newcastle mates. So I've asked him if he would like to make an appearance during the stream. So we'll have to see if he does come on in the next 30 minutes or something. It'd be great to hear from him. He's a huge Newcastle fan. So another special guest to appear on this channel on the stream. So with Cancelo as well, I was one of them with no Reece James, no Trent, no Cancelo, no Gallagher. So that's hence why I dropped in rank a lot, because I was one of those owners. I didn't own any of those players I just mentioned. So I thought I'd jump on this bandwagon. I'm not really one for taking a hit for a defender. It's one of those don't do sort of things that I feel, it's one of those FPL rules out there that I don't do. But he's getting those assists, and I've missed out on so much. I think he's got 4 assists so far this season. Cancelo got 2 against United in that derby win. She's looking very good. Looking very, very good. He's got Everton, who's leaking goals. Probably guaranteed clean sheet, maybe. Yeah, they lost to Palace at home. City did. They got West Ham, Villa, then some lovely fixtures here in green. So that's what I've done. I like the rest of the team. You're probably going to rip my team apart, you two, because like Josh did in the last stream with Williams right there. But I am looking to probably get rid of him soon because I have got about 5.4 million in the bank, and the players that I took out were Vardy. And who was the other one? I took out Vardy and Azpilicueta. That's it. They're the players I took out for Cancelo and Wilson. So I've got about 5.4 million in the bank. So that's what I'm going for. So, chaps, what do you think of those moves? What's your thoughts? We'll start with James. What do you think, mate?
Who's on the bench, Calvin?
I'll be honest.
In the rest of your squad,
It's not the best. It's not the best bench, mate. It's pretty shit, to be honest. Yeah, so I'm looking to move Townsend on soon. I'm looking to move Townsend.
I assume you've already taken that -4.
Yeah.
I'm guessing from what you're saying, you're quite principled in terms of someone who's not wanting to take hits. But, I mean, the -8 looks glaringly obvious, actually, to keep going with it.
Yeah, the thing is, in past seasons, I mean, shout out to FPL Obsessed Book Bats, and this is a new strategy that I'm going for, where it's like that only take a hit unless absolutely necessary, because the old me would have bloody used 2 of his chips already. I'm probably that much of an FPL casual, to be honest with you, and probably taken so many hits, hence why I've never finished so high at the end of an FPL season, as high as I would have loved to. I think -8 is probably pushing it. I don't know. Maybe get rid of Townsend for I don't know. I'd rather stay for -4. Just play it safe, because I don't know. But Townsend, I'm definitely looking at getting rid of very, very soon. I think I was a bit late for the Townsend party. I had Gray before that, and I had him for some good weeks. Damari Gray, he was doing good for me. Then I decided to bring Townsend in after the game when they played Manchester United at Old Trafford. Bit late for the party, but maybe I should look to maybe upgrade to Zosko soon. He's been there since Gameweek 1. Same as Williams as well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else your thoughts are, guys. James.
Well,
Chris.
I was going to say, if you just go back to your show us your defence again.
Yes, sir. Can you see it?
Show us your defence.
Oh, defence, sorry.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you've got 3. So you've got Livramento, who's flagged. Well, we don't know whether I've not heard anything as to whether it's just like a bit of an international break special or whatever. But you've got Rudiger, you've got Cancelo, so they're fine. Livramento, normally, if he's not flagged, is absolutely fine. But Williams is a real problem.
Go on, Chris. Say we're thinking the same thing.
Rip it apart.
Williams is awful. Williams is an awful.
Just buy Trent, mate.
Don't hold back. Just go for it, mate.
Just buy Trent.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Where is Trent? First thing,
where is
Trent?
I had Trent, and then I think, jeez. It just went a bit on top.
The other thing is that that would be the obvious move, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Trent is probably, you've got some Chelsea cover at least. I'm not saying it's the right cover, but at least you've got some cover, and you've moved Azpilicueta on. I agree with that. I did the same thing. I went Azpilicueta to Chilwell because I was so fed up of missing out on points from Chelsea. It didn't do me any good as it happened. But no, I think Trent's the obvious move, and I think, ultimately you're looking at you've still got money in the bank. You could probably get some more flexibility in midfield as well. If you go down to your bench,
you could. Why are you going down, Karen? You could go to whole hog. You can go Williams to Trent. You can go Townsend to Jota, mate.
Well, that's exactly what I was just going to say.
-12, just get it done.
Townsend to Jota as well.
Is that really worth it? Is that really worth? If you think
maybe not this week, but maybe that's a planned move. I would say Jota should be a planned move for you, provided, especially if Firmino's out for any length of time, which it seems like he is. I have to say I've been a little bit absent when it comes to news. I've not heard an awful lot in the last few days. But look, if Jota is, like I said, pretty nailed, I think he's a pretty good shout for you. The other thing, obviously, is we're slowly but surely. When's the AFCON start, James?
The AFCON is scheduled, if it's still going to happen, Gameweek 22 and 23.
Right, so we're a little way away. But Mane's also got a knock at the moment as well. by what I did hear that last night.
I think you might be right, actually.
Right.
Some of the quotes I've seen this morning coming out of Senegal suggest that he might even play in Senegal's next international.
Right.
So,
okay, so maybe that's not the case. But Yotta's still a good shout, I think, for Townsend.
Of course
right?
he is.
Mm.
I think, Calvin, you have to be careful. And I think I'm quite like you in terms of I'm quite a reserved player. I don't particularly like taking hits as well. But I think when there's a time to do it, and time's now, I think. I wouldn't even, in your case, look at that team. I wouldn't even think you've already made the -4. Forget that. Now it's the next decision. Is Trent Alexander-Arnold, for example, worth a 4-point hit over Brandon Williams? And you don't have to judge it on 1 week, do you? The answer's got to be
Arsenal at
yes.
home, Southampton at home, Everton away, Wolves away, Villa away, Newcastle away. All of those they've got chances of return. He's got chances of returns. He's
playing as a midfielder. You watch him in games, he's just like that. He's a completely different Trent this season. He's just getting so far up the pitch. He wouldn't think he's a defender. Still takes beautiful free kicks. He takes corners, and I think that's. If I had to choose, I mean, I could have brought in Trent instead of Cancelo, but I mean, we always have good games against Arsenal as well. But I think I just panicked. I think I just got a bit frustrated, and I think. I
don't think Cancelo's a bad pick. I actually think he's a very good pick. I think you need them both, quite frankly, especially if you haven't got any of the attacking Chelsea defenders, because a lot of people, it's these attacking it's these defenders which can get those hauls, right? You know, you've got players like Cancelo, like Trent, like Chilwell, like James, Livramento even potentially at the moment, because Southampton have turned the corner a little bit. He's a great option. He's cheap. That for me, I think 3 or maybe even 4 of those players, I think big at the back as far as I'm concerned, where I'm going at the moment, because I don't see a lot of value up front. I'll be interested to know what James thinks about the Kane side of things, because that's one of my dilemmas. But I'm still my wild card was quite a defense heavy wild card. I went with double Chelsea, double City, because Trent was injured when I wildcarded, and then I brought Trent back in. So for me, I think you're missing. You need to be on those attacking defenders. For me, that's where I'm coming from anyway.
What's James say? Any last thoughts on this, or do you think?
No, I think priority would be Trent or Jota. As it stands, I genuinely would make a strong case to say both. You're not obviously in a position where you could use the wild card. I don't think it's necessary probably to get both, but I think in your case, I mean, have you got any plans to use the second wild card quite soon, Calvin? I mean, we're in 12. You can't till 20 at the earliest, and presumably you're not going to use it then. Just take a longer term view on this. And I mean, bottom line is, do you want Trent Alexander-Arnold in your team?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
It doesn't even have to be for Williams, right? It could be for Marcel.
I mean, I would like to get rid of Williams. It's just but I know what you mean. I mean, just look at the fixtures there. It's like, it's a real shame I haven't got him in, but I might consider maybe 13 doing a free transfer, doing Williams or Marcel to Trent, going into that Southampton game, and then I've got Trent in then. But I don't really want to take a -8. I think that's probably pushing it, especially for a defender, but probably for a defender that's playing like a midfielder, like I said.
Don't think of Trent as a defender, mate.
No,
I think of Trent as someone who in any given week can get you a 50.
KDB.
He's basically his underlying numbers are nothing like the numbers of Chilwell and James, but the fact is that he has that ability to haul, and also what's his ownership, James, roughly? Do you know what it is?
Oh,
it's pretty high, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have him at the moment, actually.
You don't have him, no. Right.
And I can't. And I think that's part of the way why I'm saying to you, Calvin, it's there straight in front of you with the money. My situation is actually dictating that I cannot get him in the next few weeks.
Right.
It's just not worth it in my situation because I'm using the wild card soon. So I look at your team and I think, yeah, priority with that money in the bank. Yeah, I'd get it done. That would be first choice for me. And I'd Trent over Jota in the first instance, I think.
Right, before you say I wasn't actually doing a Trent transfer then, before you...
I was going to try and get you to do it on air.
No,
I took
I changed my captaincy once live on the stream.
It was -8 live on air last year.
Oh wow. Yeah, so I could just do it here. If you watch it like Williams to Trent, it'll leave me 1.7 in the bank if I did that, or if I did. I think I'd rather get rid of Norwich because they're just Norwich, aren't they? And Williams is pretty much rotation. Marcel's only out because of his injury.
I'd be careful with that. He might not get back in, mate. Marcel, like even when he is.
You don't think so? You don't think so?
I mean, Ray and Nori is far better suited to that system that they're playing at the moment.
Yeah, I'll have a think about it.
I'd actually been Marcel to take. Williams has got a couple more decent fixtures, and then you're there at the kind of the budget scraping 4 million second or third defender. Forget about it. Whereas Marcel's probably going forward is going to be a continuous problem for you. In any case, even if you do keep him, they've got West Ham at home, Norwich away, Burnley at home, and then a rough run of fixtures where you never pick him, and you're going to want some coverage because of natural rotation over the December period. So Marcel's going to be useless for you. Yeah. I'd actually keep Williams at the 2 for the moment.
Well, Livramento is actually a worthy fourth defender now anyway, isn't he?
Of course.
So worthy. In fact, worthy third defender in some perhaps sometimes, but certainly as a fourth defender, I think now I've even contemplated, I think you come onto my team in a bit, but I've even contemplated actually downgrading one of my premium defenders down to almost a jump because I know I own Livramento, right? So it's a certain consideration. I think, yeah, that's probably a reasonable option, James, actually. Get rid of Martial instead.
The other thing to think about, Calvin, is obviously game week 13, the week after, Livramento goes to Anfield. So you need to be in a position, if you don't make the defensive transfer this week, you're almost definitely making it next week. It's easy for everyone to sit there right now and go, oh, I'm playing Livramento every week. Well, okay, be brave about it in game week 13. I generally don't recommend it, actually. So something's got to move for you defensively in the next 2 weeks. Yeah,
there will be. I do probably need to strengthen that bench a lot. Yeah. No, lads, appreciate the advice. Really appreciate it. We'll move straight on now. We'll go to we'll go James. We'll go around.
You can rip mine now.
Hey. Just give me a minute while I type it in.
It's so much fun because on my podcast I don't let Suj rip mine. I just rip his. I just rip
his bits. Yeah, I know. I listen all the time. Yeah.
Right, here we go, mate. Talk us through your team and your plans, your season so far.
Where am I at? About 370k, which I'm really pleased with at the moment because I didn't captain Salah for the mega haul at Old Trafford. I went against him and dropped from that back to basically about 750k, and I've made it back in the 2 weeks. So I'm quite pleased to be in that position. And I'm also in a position where I haven't used the first wild card yet. Now, my strategy is to use it in game week 16. There's quite a number of fixture swings of players that I'm going to want to bin and players that I want to attack them, which I wouldn't want to now. At West Ham, Crystal Palace have got a good swing there as well. There's a few others as well. Everton might be back on radar, sort of Calvert-Lewin's back fit around about that time. So I'm very, very short-term thinking, and that's kind of why I mentioned from my perspective, I can't really go to Trent at the moment. So I've got 2 free transfers, 1.9 million in the bank. Kai Havertz to Heung-min Son is an absolute certainty for myself. But I need to sacrifice something else to get there. Now, I've got no decision at the moment on what that downgrade is going to be because I suspect the internationals are going to decide for me what that downgrade is going to be because that's invariably what happens. But early thoughts are Rudiger to Emerson Royal is one option. Kieran Tierney, who's sitting on the bench, to Ben Davis, or an alternative 4.4 is another way to go. Rafinha down to Gallagher level, because I only need to find sort of 0.3 or so. The one I really like, actually, and I think it's a really good punt for throughout December, is Maxwell Cornet at Burnley, actually. Underlying numbers really good at the moment. I make them second on my fixture ticker for the next 8. So I think if I was looking a little bit longer term, Cornet would be right on my eye line at the moment. But actually for myself, Palace, Tottenham, Wolves, when I'm only looking for 4 fixtures now, that's all I'm looking at. It's probably not going to be where I go. Looking further ahead, the plan is to go Tony to Wilson in 14. And again, that's looking at rolling another transfer in 13. It's very important if I downgrade my defender, because of what I said about your case, Calvin, with Livramento, I need whoever I buy for game week 13 as the priority. Now, of course, again, in my situation, looking at 4 game weeks, like it or not, Tottenham is the obvious lookout, isn't it? Ben Davies is not a long-term FPL option, but as 4.4 million cover with those fixtures at the moment, might do me the job, actually. So, yes, I might be about to land on triple Tottenham.
Yeah. We'll talk about Tottenham while we're on the
That answers
subject.
that question then, right?
Uh-oh. Can I be honest? I don't advise it for anybody else. I always say, listen to what I say, but don't do what I do. Is basically the advice always.
Would you be confident, like bringing in? Obviously, you're not going to bring in someone like Dyer or Diabolical as.
No, I'd go Davis over Dyer. And the laughable thing for this for me is the amount of questions I got on that in the summer this year and the year before, Dyer or Davis. It's actually a legit question for basically only people in my situation. I would not recommend Dyer or Davis as an option for anybody who's used their first wildcard. He's literally just for me over the next 4 game weeks.
Do you feel confident with Spurs' defense?
Of course not, mate. Of course not.
Just throw it out there.
But reality is, Conte's obviously tightened it quite quickly in terms of it's obvious, well documented, the change of system. We weren't great at Everton. I went to Goodison, but we gave away nothing in terms of chances either. 0-0 was a fair result. And in theory, if you'd have looked at the 5 fixtures, you'd have said Everton away and Leeds at home from a defensive perspective are the 2 worst ones. Burnley away, I don't think you fear. Brentford at home is beginning to possibly look an easier fixture than what it would have looked like a couple of weeks ago. Norwich at home speaks for itself, although again, they're likely to have a new manager in charge and they may be quite different as well. But for me, in my circumstance, looking at the 4 game weeks, at that point, I'm looking at fixtures. And I can't look beyond the fact that Tottenham have the next best 4 fixtures. There aren't any obvious other alternatives. Ironically, one player I am considering, Calvin's one I already mentioned, is Aït-Nouri. To go in for him. And then I've got him at Norwich away. And that's all I particularly want him for in game week 13. But I think I'm actually more likely to go with a Tottenham player. Sink or swim, right? Fight or flight, all that kind of stuff. I bring my own pain on myself, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'll just get your SCT so Chris can see as well. It's very interesting. I mean, the double Brentford attack as well. What's your thoughts beyond that? Are you still keen to keep some, both Tony and Mbeumo? Despite not firing.
Really.
Are you looking to get rid of?
I mean, to be honest, Mbeumo could become the downgrade for me this week. Whereas, I've got Lowton on the bench, home to Palace this week. I could even decide that my money finder for Son is actually Mbeumo down to Josh Brownhill, for example, which would then open up the possibility of the Callum Wilson move in 14 a little bit easier for me. So with Tony, I'm thinking, do you know what? I'll have for Newcastle away and Brentford at home. For me to go Tony to Wilson now would obviously be costing me a -4. I don't think that's worthwhile. And Mbeumo, if he's going to sit there for those other 2 fixtures, fine. I think if he stays there, he's definitely the guy that will go for me to get Wilson in 14. So ironically, and here's the funny bit again, I'd be selling the 2 Brentford players as they're about to play Tottenham. It's mad, isn't it?
You must be confident, James. That's all I
must
can
be.
say.
Yeah, must be confident.
I'm really not, mate.
I really can't work them out. I mean, obviously you're an ardent fan and everything, and you can see Havertz to Son. I can see that's sensible. You're going to have a potential big differential when you combine Kane with Son. I think that's the key thing. I think, but a lot of people forget that it could be combinations of players can give you the differential as well as anything else. And so I can see that being you're ahead of the game, I think, there, but it's got to work. And I think that's what I'm not. The numbers are not there. I think Kane needs to get a goal in this international, or a couple of goals this international break, quite frankly. He needs to come back in with a little bit more, should we say, spring in his step. But because I'm not sure about Kane, but the thing about Kane, the thing I like about Kane is the team structure you can get with Kane in your team, because then that allows you, perhaps if Manchester United ever do turn a corner, you can go back to Ronaldo in about game week 15, isn't it? 15, Crystal Palace, Norwich, then Brentford, Brighton.
15 would be a difficult one to move because
16
Norwich at home. Right? But 16, you'd lock that transfer in now.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
A lot of people are obviously asking me regularly, Kane or Son. It's not as straightforward as that because they'll probably score quite similarly, in all honesty. And Son's not playing well at the moment either.
No.
But it's very much about team structure. So my answer to a lot of people is, what are you doing come the end of these fixtures then? So if people are planning Ronaldo 16, then really the solution is to go with Kane.
Yeah,
rather
exactly.
than go with Son. And for you, Calvin, we're talking about that money in the bank. Do you want to look at Antonio to Kane or Tony to Kane, for example, is another way of spending that money if it lines you up correctly for Ronaldo? I prefer the other moves for you that we discussed earlier. It's not a straightforward yes or no. I imagine they'll score similarly. I'd be very surprised if Son outscored Kane by 20 points over the 4 games or vice versa. I think they'll score quite similarly. And they will get returns. And just by simple logic of they're the only 2 players in the team who can score goals.
Yeah, I just want to quickly get my thoughts on this. Now, I don't know how you're going to react to this, but obviously Kane, just to quickly touch before we move on to Chris's team. Obviously Kane's head's not in the right place, is he? He probably wants that move to City. He's will Conte. I don't know what your thoughts are, James. Quickly get your thoughts on what Conte can do. Do you think he can turn things around at Spurs? Do you think he gets Kane firing again? Do you think? I don't know. Do you still see Kane being a Spurs player for next season or two? But what's your quick thoughts on?
If Harry Kane continues to play the way he's playing, no one's buying him anyway.
That's what I mean. I mean, like you said, it can be a good placeholder for someone like Ronaldo when Ronaldo has his good fixtures. But I don't feel tempted by Kane any even with the nice fixtures.
No,
you could play a League 2 side, but I don't know.
No, I get it completely. Like we haven't had a shot. By the time the Leeds fixture comes around, we won't have had a shot on target in the Premier League for 4 weeks. And there I am saying, yeah, triple Spurs. Let's get one of the wing backs. Let's get Son. Let's get Kane. Yeah, there's nothing logical in it other than short-term thinking and attacking the fixtures. One of the things can obviously bring form is fixtures. Okay, there's no way Tottenham are not having a shot on target against Leeds. Tottenham might get beat by Leeds, but there's no way Tottenham aren't having efforts on goal against Leeds. Literally none. Will Conte improve the team? Yes, obviously. In terms of Kane not wanting to be there, yeah, that's fairly obvious. But actually, the reports have suggested since Conte's walked in the door, he's seriously impressed and is considering changing his mind. And the reality is, as I've said numerous times on my shows, nobody actually offered money for Kane. City offered 70 million plus bonuses. He was never leaving for that money. So, I mean, Kane dug himself his own hole. He's got 3 years left on his contract. I don't doubt his ability in front of goal. He's not playing well, but no one in that team has been. They've been taught to think way too defensive over the last couple of years. Conte's not a defensive coach. There's some myth about this. He's not at all. He's forward-thinking, progressive. He's working them hard. Can I guarantee Kane and Son are going to get you returns in the next 4 weeks? Yes. Can I guarantee you that they'll be worth it for the money in FPL? No. That's where it would be at. You could only take the punt on the fixtures. There's obviously nothing on the eye test you could say, oh, I want to buy them. Like, Kane could get a trick against Albania tonight. That make no difference to nothing.
You think not? I don't know. I've just got something. There's something about that. I mean, I remember back to the Euros when, Kane is, for me, when he goes on a dry spell, once he scores, it tends to switch him on. And hopefully if he then brings that back into back to the changing room, back onto the pitch at Spurs, then you look at the fixture run, and then it's really. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he bags a couple tonight. It's tonight, isn't it? I think it is tonight.
Yeah.
If he bags a couple tonight, I wouldn't be at all surprised if his price doesn't go up at all.
His price will go up anyway.
Yeah.
Because of them 4 fixtures.
Yeah.
What Kane does against Albania is not going to make a difference. It's literally about you've got an asset. You don't even, because of Salah as well, I think we're looking at it differently. Whereas a month or so ago, we'd have been looking at it and going, well, if I get Kane for that period, I've got to make a decision. You're looking at potentially to hedge against. Right now on those 4 fixtures for Tottenham, possibly game week 15, the last one against Norwich when Salah goes to Wolves, I might go against. But otherwise, I don't even need to. And actually, I'd made the decision yonks ago to get Kane, and my intention was to be captaining probably for 4 fixtures. I don't even need to now. It's a brilliant differential with the power because of Salah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right, we'll move on to Chris's team now. Appreciate it, James. It's I really appreciate it. We'll have to see what happens with Kane, if he can turn his form around. We'll move straight on to Chris's team. Here's your team. Chris, 74
score,
points.
mate.
74 points and just under 6K. Talk us through your team, mate. Plans and everything.
Yeah, well, I wildcarded back in the previous... It was the week before the international break, actually. What was that game? Week 7, I think it was.
I think so.
So I'd started quite well because I'm very much, I don't know if you know how the way I play, but I'm very much stats based. If anybody follows me on Twitter, I'm all over the stats. But there was one move which one player I brought in at the start of the season purely on the eye test, and that was Ben Rama. And I brought Ben Rama in on the back of the game against Atalanta, which was pre-season, and he was all over the place, and it was just, it was outstanding. You could see the link with Antonio and everything. So I got on that early. And yeah, I don't know, I've had a good start. And I think I've had a couple, I think I've got as high as about 4 or 5K before, and I dropped away. But I think the main thing is the wild card is just starting. It's not necessarily paid dividends until probably this week, because I think the good thing about this week is that the number of returns that I actually got. So there's Ramsdale obviously returned. I've been beating myself around the room because I moved away from Sanchez to Ramsdale. I'm still not entirely sure it's the right move, but because I haven't got any Brighton cover, and I do like Brighton defence, quite honestly. Cancelo, obviously Trent, doing very well. Chilwell I brought in for Aspilicueta, as I said. Livramento I played rather than sitting on the bench, but he did come in. I think he came in last week. Smith Rowe came up. I actually started for the first time I've owned him for 4 weeks, and it's the first time I started him anywhere above second bench. And you can just imagine what's happened with that. He stayed on the bench for for both those previous hauls, which absolutely stinks. But he's done okay. But he's overperforming his numbers, and there's a number of players. Jimenez is overperforming his numbers as well. There's a few players there who perhaps are overperforming, and
Smith Rowe might be another one, actually, Chris.
Yeah, I think he is well overperforming. Actually,
yeah.
Well overperforming.
I think he's had 0.1 big chance per game.
Yeah. Look how he's doing. So,
and I think on the eye, you'd think, like Smith Rowe's been in my mind. I looked at some data at kind of around 5.5 to 6 million midfielders last night, and that's kind of what drew my eye to Cornet and stuff. Actually,
yeah, I think Cornet is he. Is he over or underperforming his numbers? I can't remember.
He's doing very well. I mean, 6.2 FPL points.
Yeah, no, he's doing all right. Yeah, it's interesting because again, they've got some, like I said, they've got Palace at home, and Palace on the road are not very good. Palace at home are really solid, but Palace on the road are not so good.
You mean the team that won at the Etihad, mate?
Yeah, but come on. They're not going to do that every week.
It'd just be an absolute piss take if Burnley won.
Shit, they're shy on the road have just won at Man City.
No, but they're not going to do that every week. No chance. But no, I mean, obviously Salah I've had since the start. I've captained him more often than not. I tend to follow the captain metric, which we've got on Net That Haul, and that's been backing him. So that's been quite good. Rafinha, yeah, I brought him in as the wild card. It's really the first. I think he got points last week. He's only just started to return for me. Vardy came in for Lukaku. Horrible. I don't know. He's now turning into prime troll material for me, this Vardy. I don't think I can ever catch his holes. I can't remember the last time I caught Vardy's holes. Jimenez is a good differential. He's been returning quite nicely and bringing me some good points. And of course, Antonio. But if you look on live FPL, I think my team is about 81% or 82% template. So it's quite a templatey sort of team, but I don't necessarily need to take too many chances or to drift too far away from the template. The way I look at it is take tiny bites, and then, hopefully by taking tiny bites, you can gain without necessarily dropping off a cliff at the other side. So that's what I've been trying to do. So it's been a good start, really. I can't complain with it. Move-wise, I don't know if you want to talk, if you want to go back to that.
No,
or...
I ain't giving you. I've just seen your rank. I ain't giving you any advice. You crack on.
No,
but
don't.
Move wise, the issues I've got right is I don't own James, and he frightens the living daylights out of me. The way he's been playing. I mean, I only watched the highlights of the Chelsea game, and I saw enough in those highlights to think, oh my God, I dodged a total bullet again, because he looks so good. But the issue is, what do I do? Do I take, do I go from Diaz to James when Diaz is playing Everton? You could argue that you could double up with City against Everton at home. Maybe not make that move. I've obviously got a lot of options of Ben Rama to Jota. I've got the money to do that. And of course, I could go Vardy to Kane as well. I could do them all.
Who's your subs at the moment?
Pardon?
Who's on the bench for you at the moment?
On the bench, there's Ben Rama, Diaz, and Brownhill.
Oh, you were so well covered, really, aren't you? I mean,
yeah.
Ben Rama arguably could move down and you could move the money up somewhere else. So just kind of looking ahead at a few fixtures for you, like, Jimenez got Liverpool at home and Antonio's got Chelsea at home game week 15. Like, by the time it comes around, do you want to... They're both obviously consistent and brilliant assets. Do you want to be looking at both of them two going into that weekend? In Jimenez's case, he's got Man City away the week after as well, which is the end of...
I think Jimenez will... I reckon Jimenez will ultimately move on. I expect him to probably move on at some stage. I've looked at Callum Wilson myself, although he's another prime troll for me. He's caused me no end of heartache over the years. But he would be an option, wouldn't he? So that's a thought. I thought about even downgrading Jimenez down to... I was a bit irritated that... what's his name in Southampton? Is Broja? Broja. I was a bit irritated that he... didn't get back in. I'd like to see what happens with him in the next few weeks, because if he gets enough minutes, then I think he could be a good option to downgrade Jimenez and then perhaps use that money and invest that into midfield, take Smith Rowe up to somebody, because I'm a bit mindful, I've not got, I would like to be considering players like Foden. Son's an option as well, but I'm more likely, James, because I've got Vardy, I'm more likely to do the Kane move, I think. That's probably where I'm going to go. But I'm not sure I'm going to do it this week. I might just make, depending on obviously the international break, I might make 2 moves this week and then perhaps look at Kane the following week.
I think if you wait, you won't buy Kane the following week.
You think not?
No, Vardy's got Watford at home.
That's true. He has, hasn't he?
Can I just put in there, Chris? What with Ben Rama, would you not consider maybe Gerrard Bowen, because he seems to be doing really well with the returns?
He's a brilliant shout, but I'm not sure. I mean, who are they? They've got Wolves,
rough fixtures.
City. They've got
come
Wolves,
back to it. Yeah.
City, Brighton, and Chelsea. So I reckon game week 16. James nailed it earlier on. That's the time. I probably hold Antonio all the way through there, because I think Antonio he will return, and he's still quite highly owned. He might drop a little bit, but I think he's still a great option. But Ben Rama, I think he will depart. And then the player I'm looking at, if his form carries on the way it is Bowen, probably, rather than Ben Rama.
It's also for you, Chris, that's the end of it's the start of a really bad run for Leeds. So if you've got that plan, it's sort of Rafinha to Bowen in 16,
Yeah, so there's plenty of options. So Rafinha, I can't see the point in taking Rafinha out at this moment, because they've only got a couple of decent fixtures, I think, haven't they? But who have they got?
Leeds are Tottenham away, Brighton away, Palace at home, Brentford at home.
Yeah,
then
Palace at home and Brentford at home.
Between 16 and 19, they go to Stamford Bridge, the Etihad, and Anfield, and their one home game is Arsenal.
Yeah. So I think that's where I'm probably going to go. I just can't decide what to do with Diaz. I don't know whether to hold him and just try and cover Chelsea via Chilwell, and then hope to God that James doesn't go bonkers, and try and, should we say, use the double City as a differential that way. But that's the thing with Diaz for me. I don't know about you, but he's boring. He's a decent player, but he's going to get you 6 points. He's going to get you 2 points or 6 points, and I'm not quite sure.
6 points this week might be more than Reece James. Do you not feel a little bit like Chris? And obviously, look, James and Chilwell are great buys. Obviously, I can see why you want to move. But do you not feel a little bit like Chelsea have just had their great 5 fixtures, and now you want to go in. Does that make sense? And actually,
Yeah,
City,
I'm a bit late.
and City's run is getting easier.
Yeah, I am late because City have got Villa, Watford, Wolves, Leeds, Newcastle. Yeah, so you could nearly hold him and then just hope to just go without him.
I think if you're in a position where that would be one for me at the moment in your case because of kind of the change in the fixture. I mean, Chelsea have got Leicester United and West Ham as 3 of the next 4. The one on paper easier fixture, Watford, falls in a midweek when they play United Sunday and West Ham Saturday. James might not even play at Watford in that easier fixture. So I think if you've got the luxury and no other issues, great, fine. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. James's 12 points one week might be 0 points the next week, while Ruben Diaz gets you 2 6s. Is the reality.
Yeah, it's an interesting. It's one of those ones where I'm clearly quite concerned about. His numbers are off the charts, and what worries me is the fact that he can he can do this any given week, as far as I can see at this moment in time. He's, as I joked on a VOD that I recorded earlier, my grandmother could have scored that header, which Havertz scored. It was it was exquisite, that cross.
I don't know if it's changed, by the way, as well, Chris, but prior to the last game week, no side had conceded more chances down their left side than Leicester.
I could check that because I've actually got a
Oh, look at Chris. Go for it, mate.
I'm
but anyway,
if that's correct, you got him going now.
That's going to make you feel worse.
You've got me going. You've got me thinking
if you're a stat man.
Yeah, you've got me thinking about this one now. Hang on a minute. Where the bloody hell's it gone? I'll try.
That's what I do on my pods, you see. I talk a good game that I said, listen to what I'm saying, but don't do what I'm doing. I'll put the ideas in your head, then you come to your own
exactly.
conclusions.
Yeah. So they're playing Leicester. So I've worked out if basis the number of chances that Chelsea create against the number of chances that Leicester concede down their left. It's 4.4 in every 90 minutes. I'm working it out on. So that's green. So that's quite good.
And didn't you see Azpilicueta recently? He probably played there, wouldn't he?
Yeah, knowing my luck, he will. But look, do you know what? I was that pissed off. I couldn't cope with it anymore. He had to go.
I make you right. Look, obviously, Reece James is a better FPL asset than Ruben Diaz. I don't think that's in question. Whether you've got the luxury to make that move, it's your call, mate.
I think the main thing is, Jota. I think that's the one I really want. And obviously, if he comes back fit from the international break, then I think that's a fairly obvious move. So I think that's one of my moves for sure. Then the issue is, what do I do with Vardy? Do I go up to Kane now, or do I sit on Vardy? That'll probably go till lastminute.com, I would imagine. I'll see what's happening right at the end as we get right up to deadline and decide what to do. But as I say, I'm not in any... I don't have to force it because the rank... I mean, I don't need to force it. I can, like I said, nibble away with tiny little bites rather than taking a giant chunk and possibly choking, is what I've been saying to a few people. So, yeah, I'm relatively happy. It's been a good start for me. And, I just need to not make the cock-ups that I made last season when I was in a similar rank and ended up sleepwalking into a really big City problem last year at about game week 31 with all the rotation. And then I ended up doing what you were telling Calvin to do, -8s.
I'm not an advocate of hit taking. As I said, Cal, I think it's right for you, mate.
It's not my game. I've took one all season so far. And as I say, I'm prepared to take a hit this week if I need to. If I feel I need to, shall we say, just spice it up a little bit and get a little bit more aggressive, you can do that, I think. But at the same time, I'm not necessarily... I'm not falling over myself to take a hit, to be honest.
No, mate, you're
right. We'll move on now to one of the topics now. Okay, I've got a few to choose from, but we'll wrap up very soon. We'll talk about Eddie Howe and Newcastle. I don't know if you've talked about it, James, with Sudge on one of your pods as of late. But Eddie Howe and Newcastle, I did talk briefly about with my last guest, only for about 2 minutes. We'll start off with James. How do you think the Eddie Howe era will go at Newcastle? Obviously, they can't spend any money. He's still got the same players that Steve Bruce had when he was manager. New owners, fresh. Everything's fresh at Newcastle. There's this positive vibe going around at the club. Eddie Howe's back. Like I said to my last guest, good chemistry with Richie there, Wilson, Fraser. How do you think? I know it's early days, but we know. I think, in my opinion, Eddie Howe's a lovely, decent manager. I think he's a good manager probably for the job at Newcastle, but only time will tell. See how he does. He's coming to Newcastle, who is like second bottom. We're not even halfway through the season, but I just want to get your thoughts, lads. We'll start off with James. What's your thoughts on the appointment and where this club's going? Do you think?
I think tactically very astute in the sense that he can play flexible formations. He's good at changing within games to back 3 or back 4. I'm not sure which way he'll go with that in the immediate. I think he'll give them an uplift. I think that's natural. He's got a little aura about him, actually. I think he carries himself very well. The major concern would be, and I think people keep going back to it with the Eddie Howe teams at Bournemouth. Yeah, they were good to watch and stuff. Right now, Newcastle don't need good to watch. Newcastle need football points, or they're going to go very quickly. The next 4 are absolutely massive. Brentford, Arsenal, Norwich, Burnley. I mean, they need to be getting sort of probably 7-8 points kind of minimum out of that, really, because after that, it's Leicester away, Liverpool away, and then the 2 Manchester clubs. I mean, they could get the Gameweek 19, and if they haven't got the points in the next 4 to carry them through the next 4, they're finished. Don't matter. They can go and buy Mbappe and all his mates. They still go down, which they won't do anyway. But I think the big concern is that every year that he was manager at Bournemouth in the Premier League, they conceded 60+ goals. Now, the likes of, ironically, Callum Wilson and Ryan Fraser got them out of it because they scored a good number of goals as well. If they don't score the goals up front, so much pressure on Wilson between now and the window. Like, if something happens to them, or to him specifically, I think they're in a disaster stage. If Wilson was not to be fit for the next 4, I think there's every chance they'll be close to relegated by the time the window opens. But he will certainly give them an uplift. I think the only one you'd look at from an FPL perspective is Wilson. Definitely Wilson over St. Maximin is not even in question. Yeah. There's a major difference in how St. Maximin plays with and without Callum Wilson. I think ASM kind of picked up the mantle a bit when Wilson was out. You could make a case for Manquillo, possibly, in terms of budget 5th defender, but is Howe even going to play him? You could play Murphy there, you could play Kraft there. He's got various options. None of the midfield options would appeal. Jacob Murphy might be one to keep an eye on in the next couple of weeks, but you're not gonna buy him from a fantasy perspective. It's Wilson or no. I intend to go on to Wilson for Norwich and Burnley at home, and then knowing that I'm wildcarding straight out of that. That's my strategy at the moment.
What's your thoughts, Chris, on Newcastle? Do you agree with James?
No, I do. I don't want to, without being a bit boring, I tend to agree with James. I think it's Wilson or nobody. I also agree on the defence. They are a utter shambles with respect to the numbers, and they are flat bottom of my fixture difficulty with respect to defensive performance at homes. Only slightly better, I think, away. And yeah, not a lot to say, really. I think he's got a big job on his hands. And I think James makes a good point. He's not known for playing that tight football, which perhaps they need. They need a couple of 1-0 wins off someone's backside, quite frankly. It doesn't matter how it goes in. That's what they need now. They need 2 or 3 wins, probably 2 wins and a draw, like James said, or something like that over the next few weeks. And I think they're capable of doing it. And I think if anybody's involved, it'll be Callum Wilson. So that's where I would go. And as I say, he's possibly a good option for someone like Jimenez, or if somebody's got the cash to go from Tony to him as well. Because, again, Tony's not really tearing any trees up, but, neither's Callum Wilson at this moment. But I do think he's worth a look, especially.
I think he's a reasonable get this week, actually, even. Yeah.
Yeah. They've got that bit of chemistry. They've got that chemistry, haven't they? Wilson and Howe. They know each other. So it cannot do that. It cannot be a bad thing.
Well, I think in Wilson's case, he's a predator in and around the penalty box, and that's where Newcastle will aim to keep him. And you would hope in some of these fixtures coming up, he'll get chances and score goals. I think you have to understand, if you're buying, say, Callum Wilson, for example, now, again, you've got to be thinking, what's your exit plan in Gameweek 16? Is it back to, say, Antonio at that stage? Are you moving on to to someone else. Maybe, I don't know, and Iheanacho's in the Leicester team by that stage. You have to make that decision. But I think you have to know, if you're buying Wilson, you are looking to come off. You're not keeping him for Leicester, Liverpool, Man City, Man United in a row. I don't know. It's too much.
But it's a decent block of fixtures, and I think it's a decent option. He's on penalties. Like I said, they're going to have a bounce, I'm sure. The place is going to be bouncing.
Yeah,
but they're absolutely delighted that they've got rid of Ashley for a start. I know there's lots of discussions. We're going to have lots of discussions about what's going on in the background of Newcastle. But look, if we look at it purely from a performance basis, they've got a long way to go to be able to stay up, I think. But I think they've got a chance, and I think Howe certainly will get them scoring goals. It's just whether they can not concede them is my concern.
Right.
Agreed.
Cool. We'll just move on to another one now, which is another appointment, which is Gerrard and Villa. Now, this is, give my thoughts quickly before I get to you two. Being a Liverpool fan, great to see him back in the Premier League. I personally would have thought he'd stay with Rangers for the rest of the season. A lot of Rangers fans you see on Twitter say call him a snake and all that, jumping ship, not even halfway through the season. I thought if he'd stayed with Rangers, he's gotten back on top, obviously. He's won the title with them. But I thought if he stayed the rest of the season with Rangers and build that experience up some more, I just worry he might become like a Frank Lampard. We know Lampard is close to is linked to being next Norwich manager. But I think it's a nice appointment. He hasn't got that much experience, Gerrard, but he's willing to learn. He's passionate. I think it's a nice one. Villa fans are buzzing with it. I've seen on Twitter. It's only time will tell. Transfer window wise, could he do what he did with Rangers? He got Ryan Kent from Liverpool, brought him to Rangers in 2018-19. Maybe he might look at players like in January, players that aren't really getting games for Liverpool, like Minamino, Origi, Nat Phillips, players like them in January. Maybe he might have a bit of a wink at Jurgen Klopp and say, hey, can I have one of those players, please, Jurgen? But I don't know what your thoughts are. We'll go straight to James. What's your reaction to Stevie G back in the Premier League?
I think it's a good appointment for all parties with an element of risk. I think we all know Gerrard's going to be the next Liverpool manager, but that doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon. And as you quite rightly said, there's obviously the chance that he can damage his reputation here a little bit. But there are positives. I think that they're in a situation where I think if they don't get a result against Brighton with the fixtures they've got afterwards, they could very quickly be looking at being in a relegation battle. Actually, there's even fixtures like Norwich away, Burnley at home. Those two teams, we think they need to beat Villa as well by the time that comes around. Their next 5 fixtures are quite rough, actually, for Villa. So they'll be aiming to beat Brighton, who are obviously without Sanchez for that game. If they don't, I think they might get sucked into trouble. I, by the way, don't think they're in any danger of actually going down. So I think they've got too much quality actually in depth, which people don't realise at the moment. They've probably got the best group of academy youngsters in the country. Did extremely well in the Youth Cup last year. There's loads of talents coming through. We've seen on the fringes like Archer, Chukwuemeka. We've seen quite a bit of Jacob Ramsey. He's got a brother as well. They've got loads of good youngsters who are ready to come in. That's quite important for Villa as well, actually, because I saw a report by Kieran Maguire at the Price of Football earlier today that actually they can't go mad in the transfer market at all unless they sell. Basically, they'd have to box clever. It's not that they can't buy, but they're not going to be spending 100 million in January, for example. That's just literally not on the table for them. So they'll have to be a bit clever. I think the squad depth is better than it looks because a lot of them academy talents are really good, and a few of them have been very unfortunate with injuries this season. And I think if you can just get through this season, I think you'll probably do quite well next season, actually. What job could he have gone to from Rangers that would have been better for him in the Premier League? I mean, taking the Norwich job, for example, would have been a far bigger risk, wouldn't it? Villa are a big football club, good academy players who he can help bring on. You imagine they'll be quite inspired to work under him as well. So I think he'll do fine from an FPL perspective, not with them next 5 fixtures. Literally nothing. Wouldn't consider him for a moment.
Well, you've got it's a nice homecoming coming in game week 16, Liverpool versus Villa at Anfield. That's going to be a really lovely game for him. I bet he's had his eyes on that. He's thought, yeah, I'll take the Villa job. That's nearer to the Liverpool fixture. Yeah, I'm coming home, lads.
It might not be a nice homecoming, mate. It stands
might not
out
be.
We
never know. No. Bogey team. You never know. Bloody Watkins winner, and I'm like,
excuse me for saying so, but I'd expect Villa to slip up that day. To be honest,
I hope so. Sorry, Stevie.
Thank
Sorry,
you,
lad. Chris, what's your reaction to Gerrard as the new Villa manager? What's your thoughts?
I mean, first thing, I just shout out to Dean Smith. He'll be able to create a fantasy football team now, won't he?
Brilliant.
He's got time now. No, I mean, look, I agree regarding the options. I think it's a decent option. I mean, look, Rangers, Scottish football to me. I mean, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but it's.
I managed to get through a whole 2 minutes without saying any of that. Well done, cheers, mate.
It's not very good. And, you know, you could argue that he's not really proven he's not proven at the level. So for that reason, I think it is a bit of a risk. But the point is, he's a massive character. He's going to bring nothing but positivity, I'm sure, into the changing room and things like that. They need it, clearly. They've not recovered from Grealish going, in my opinion. Players like Buendia and people like that have not really come to the party yet. I owned Ings at the start of the season. I thought it was it, and I couldn't wait to get rid of him in game week 4. Couldn't wait to get rid of him, and it was exactly the right move because basically he spawned his way to, I think, 2 or 3 returns in the first few weeks, and then looked awful. And Villa since then have just looked shocking to me. So he's got a big job on his hands. Might be interesting to see I'm not sure. Again, I don't know too much about his style of football up at Rangers, but the way I would think is, like with anything, the first thing to do is to just stop. If you're going to concede goals, stop conceding. So maybe I don't know. Maybe someone like Matt Targett might be starting to perhaps come back into our minds by about game week 16 when their fixtures start to move. But I wouldn't be going anywhere near them for a few weeks. But I might not. I mean, I wouldn't obviously go for Martinez. I like Martinez. I love Martinez as an FPL asset normally, but I wouldn't go for him as a goalkeeper. But I might consider a Villa defender if they look like they're tightening up between, after game week 16, perhaps, but not until.
Yeah,
They've got a really nice run from game week 24.
Right.
That's
a long way away.
Looking at. We can expect them if his Rangers teams are anything to go well. We can probably expect him to play 4-3-3, and within that probably means there's every chance it will be one of Watkins or Ings rather than both.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well,
I remember Martinez was a monster for Villa last season.
I mean, obviously Watkins was so consistent at the back end of last season.
What, missing chances?
Well, Mr. Woodwork, yeah, the carpenter as we nicknamed him, yeah. But no, he was pretty consistent. He was just nibbling away with the returns and everything. But they're just not at the races at the moment, and they need a change, and let's hope it works for them. I agree with you though, James. They're not going to go down.
No, to be honest, I'd actually be in him right now. I'd look more at a Newcastle player I'd look more at Wilson than Watkins or Ings. We've said that, right? Haven't we? So
definitely, yeah, 100%.
Right, we'll move on to the last question now. It's a bit of a more chilled out one now. But if everyone's enjoyed the stream, really appreciate it. Hit the like button and do consider subscribing. Want to thank my guests, Chris and James, for popping on. Really appreciate it, lads. But this is from FPL Lads. It says, why did you start an FPL channel and what was your end goal when you started it? So we'll start off with Chris this time.
Wow.
What's your answer to that?
Well, I've only been playing FPL for about 4 seasons, so I'm not a lifer like some. I started playing FPL on the back of work when I changed jobs, and the company which I work for now are very into their FPL, and they have a mini league. So I started messing about, and I'm one of these people. I don't like doing things in halves. So I very quickly realised in the first year that I had a really bad year. It's a really bad start, and then eventually got up to about 400,000. And then I started thinking, right, how can I improve? And I'm a numbers man. I've worked in laboratories for many years before I work in trading now. And because of that, I like my numbers and I like my statistics. So I started just to experiment with numbers. And then you start thinking, right, okay, now how can I make these work? And slowly but surely, I got to a point where it looked like that I could perhaps offer something to the community, which perhaps wasn't there. So yeah, I got the captaincy metric started. That did really well. It got 80%. It was about 70 or 80% by about Christmas last year. It was getting me a lot of followers on Twitter. And I was just chatting with the missus, and I said, well, why don't I have a go? And, you know, I enjoy talking to people. Why can't I talk to a webcam and interact with people? So that was the reason why I did it, really. And then that whole concept came up because, quite frankly, I'm sat in Singapore and I'd have to be doing all my streams in the middle of the night. So I needed people from the other side of the world to help, and also their brains, because they are a fantastic bunch of people. So yeah, that's really where I got into it.
Nice. What about you, James? You and Sudge?
When did we start? 2017. Sudge pulled me over in the office and said, do you want to do a podcast? And I said, yeah. And that's literally as big as the story gets in terms of what did I want it to be? Not to embarrass myself too badly more than anything. No, there was never. It was just something that started for fun and kind of expanded once you start looking at things like chip strategy, and people really like the pods on that, and it's just grown, I think, fairly organically since then. There's never been an end goal. There's not really an end goal now. I mean, I'm doing it full time. I'm very privileged to do so, but it's not an end goal. It's just next week, and keep going. There's no vision of what do we want to be in 5 or 10 years or anything like that. I can't even think forward 5 or 10 game weeks at the moment. But
no, we're a bit like that. Yeah, we're a bit
no.
Like
it started because of enjoyment and nothing but that. And then kind of COVID opened up the idea for me to go full time on it. Maybe would never have happened, ironically, if it wasn't for that. My enjoyment is not so much fantasy football. It's kind of the expertise that I talk about, but it comes from a love of football, and obviously mainly my football team as well, right?
Yeah, well, I can't do that when I talk about Grimsby, can I? So I don't think I'll ever be able to talk about Grimsby. It'll take at least 5 more seasons before Grimsby get back into the Premier League.
Yeah, what do you mean back, Chris?
Might be a long time. Yeah. Well, the ones were in Division 1 in about 1953. Come on.
Is that right? I'll have to ask my dad about that.
There we go. Yeah, we've got some facts coming out. There we go.
Yeah, I think it was 1953.
I better be careful not to dig out Grimsby, because Chris will be bringing up League Cup second round 2005, I should imagine.
Oh, yes, I can remember that. What's his name? Kalala, wasn't it?
I don't know who scored, but I'm straight out the pub, mate.
One of the first games I took my son to. I've just finished. I'll just come back and say, you know, our long-term view is, you know, we're similar to you, James. I think we're just enjoying the ride. We love the group of people who follow us. That we've called them the haulers now. I'm a bit worried it's like COVID long haulers, which worries me a bit. But at the same time, it's lovely to have the group of people who follow us and interact with us. And I feel a few of them have actually on today. I've seen 1 or 2 come on in the chat. It's lovely to do that, and I think it just makes FPL even more enjoyable for me, I think.
Yeah, exactly that. That's the number one reason why we do it. I think, like, if we didn't, so just say I'm not doing this anymore, and then I'm unemployed, and that'd be a bit of a problem. But we do it mainly for the enjoyment. Absolutely that.
Yeah, I think with myself, just quickly to answer FPL lad's question, I'd like it like yourself, James. I don't have like an end goal. I mean, I think there's been times where I thought I've lost the motivation doing this during the last 2.5 or 3 years doing it. But I enjoy it, like a bit like what Chris said, like talking to people. Also, you know, great getting to know new people in the community, talking to you guys, and it's good fun. It's like just a nice hobby, something that we all love. You know, I played 14 years with this game since I was like 12 years old, and I just enjoy talking to people who enjoy the FPL, like, and just talking about what we all have in common, FPL and football in general. So I just enjoy this, and I just made this channel just to interact with people like yourselves, and just something to do during the day, and just things like that. So
that's it. Do you know what? Even if it's like on a serious, even if it's like good for your mental health and stuff, like crack on, carry on. If you're finding it enjoyable speaking to people in the community, don't let it get you down, my friend.
Yeah, we're on tonight as well. Tomorrow morning, actually, 6:30 in the morning.
Are you selling your content? I'll be streaming live in 1 hour and 56 minutes.
Listen, we'll wrap things up there. But I want to thank my special guests, James from Planet FPL and Chris from Net That Hole. Links to their socials are in the description down below. But James, Chris, thank you so much, guys, for popping on. Really appreciate it.
No problem. It's been a pleasure, mate.
It's been great. So thank you, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you in the next stream. Bye-bye. Enjoy the dreaded international break.